Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are heading to a place where the colors are loud, the stadium is basically the size of a small city, and the history is, well, let's just call it Shakespearean.
That's a good way to put it.
We're going to Knoxville, Tennessee.
It's a journey, isn't it? I think when most people look at college football, they see the games on Saturday. But when you really start to peel back the layers on the University of Tennessee, you aren't just looking at a sports team.
No.
You're looking at a sociological phenomenon.
That's exactly the vibe I got going through this huge stack of research we have. I mean, just the sheer scale of it all is hard to wrap your head around.
It is.
You've got a program that started way back in 1891.
Right.
They're sitting at 14th on the all-time win list. And then there's the stadium, Neyland Stadium. I mean, we aren't talking about a simple bleacher setup.
No, not at all.
We are talking about a cathedral that holds nearly 102,000 people. It's the sixth largest stadium in the entire United States.
It's massive. And, that size, it dictates the pressure. It really does. When you have that many people invested emotionally, financially, historically, everything is amplified.
I can imagine.
The highs are euphoric and the lows.
Well, as we're about to see, the lows can be absolutely devastating.
And that's really our mission today. We want to decode this big orange identity. We want to understand the arc of this program, which it seems to swing so violently between this military-grade discipline on one end.
And complete chaos on the other.
Exactly. Absolute chaotic dysfunction. We're going to talk about the general who built the foundation, the coaching carousel that nearly destroyed it in the 2010s, and the traditions that, frankly, are some of the weirdest and, I think, best in the sport.
It really is a story of identity. For over a century now, Tennessee has been trying to answer one question, really. Are we still the program that Robert Neyland built back in the 1920s? Every single coach since 1952 has been chasing that ghost. And before we even get to the general, which is the story in itself, I was so surprised to find that the program almost died in the cradle. I mean, the early timeline from about 1891 to 1925 is incredibly shaky.
Oh, it wasn't a sure thing at all. The program kicks off in 1891, organized by a guy named Henry Denlinger. He was a Princeton man, a teacher. But looking at the records, it was barely organized chaos.
Right.
For the first 5 seasons, they didn't even have a head coach. It was just students, policing themselves.
Which, as we know, usually goes about as well as you'd expect.
Exactly.
But the part that really stuck out to me in the notes was 1894. This wasn't just a bad season. The university itself actively tried to kill the sport.
They did. We call these the lost years. In October of 1894, the Athletic Association at the university held a vote.
Okay.
They looked at the previous season where they'd won 2 games but gotten absolutely crushed in 4, and basically decided it just wasn't worth the embarrassment.
So they just gave up on it.
They voted to drop varsity football entirely. They even started tearing up the practice field to focus on baseball.
Wow. So we're inches away from Tennessee just being a baseball school. Who stopped it? Because obviously we're sitting here talking about them today.
A student, a guy named W.B. Stokely. He's really the first true hero of this entire program.
Okay, so what did he do?
He was a transfer from Wake Forest, a senior, and he basically just said, absolutely not. He went around campus, rallied a bunch of guys, and formed an unofficial team. He was the captain, he was the coach, he was everything.
So this is the ultimate ragtag bunch of misfits movie trope playing out in real life.
It is. And because the university didn't sanction it, the NCAA doesn't recognize those 1894 games in the official records.
Gotcha.
But if Stokely hadn't kept the pulse beating that fall, the interest might have just completely evaporated. It's that sheer stubbornness, that resilience, that really defines the program's origin story.
And that instability, it just kept going for a while, right? You had the Spanish-American War wiping out the 1898 season.
Then World War I hits. And this brings us to one of my favorite weird historical footnotes I found in the research. The fighting mechanics.
Oh, the 1918 anomaly. This is a complete mess for historians, but it's such a great story. Because of WWI, the varsity season was officially suspended.
Right.
But people still wanted to play. So 2 different units on campus formed teams. You had the fighting mechanics, which was a training unit, and then you had the SATC, the Student Army Training Corps.
And this leads to the 100-year argument with Vanderbilt.
Exactly. The SATC team, not the real Tennessee team, played Vanderbilt in 1918. And Vanderbilt was an established power at the time. They destroyed this group of student soldiers 78-0.
Brutal. That's a beating.
And to this day, Vanderbilt counts that as a legitimate win over the University of Tennessee.
No way.
They do. And Tennessee, rightfully says, that wasn't us. That was a pickup team from the Army Corps on campus. It just adds more fuel to a rivalry that was already starting to heat up.
So all this time, up until the mid-20s, Tennessee's just, okay, they're fine.
They're fine, yeah. They had that one undefeated season in 1914 under Zora Clevenger, where they went 9-0 and claimed a retroactive title. But it's not like they were a national powerhouse.
No, not at all. They were a scrappy regional team. What they needed was structure. They needed someone to come in and take all this raw energy and turn it into a machine.
Enter Robert Neyland,
the general.
I really want to spend some time on his background because it feels like he was created in a lab to be a leader. He wasn't just a football coach.
Not even close. He was a West Point graduate. And at West Point, he was the definition of an elite, all-around athlete.
Okay, like what?
Well, he was a star lineman on the football team. He was the heavyweight boxing champion of the academy for 3 years running.
Wow.
And he was a baseball pitcher who threw the first no-hitter in Army history.
I read in the notes that the New York Giants offered him a professional contract, a significant one for the time.
They did. They offered him $3,500. In the 1920s, that's a fortune. Adjusted for inflation, we're talking about a six-figure salary to go play baseball.
And he turned it down.
He turned it down because he wanted to be an Army officer. He served in World War I, went to MIT for engineering, and then served as an aide to General Douglas MacArthur.
That's a resume.
That is the caliber of man who was arriving in Knoxville in 1925.
And he didn't come with some vague mission statement. He had one specific direct order from the dean, a man named Nathan Doherty.
Even the score with Vanderbilt.
That was it.
That was the whole job.
Yeah.
At that time, Vanderbilt was the king of the South. They looked down on Tennessee. Neyland was hired to essentially break their neck.
And he took that pretty literally.
He lost to them in his first year, 1926, and then he proceeded to win or tie them for the next 7 years straight.
Yeah.
He didn't just even the score, he completely inverted the entire hierarchy football in the state of Tennessee.
Now, Neyland's tenure is unique because it's broken up into these different stints.
Yeah.
He's one of only 2 coaches, I think, to win national titles in 2 non-consecutive stints. He was there from 26 to 34, then 36 to 40, and finally 46 to 52.
And those gaps weren't because he was fired or got burnt out. He was recalled to active military duty.
Right, for the Army.
He went to Panama in the mid-30s. And then for World War II, he was a brigadier general serving in the China-Burma-India theater.
And what was he doing there?
He was literally organizing the logistics of hauling supplies over the Himalayas, they called it the hump, to keep China in the war against Japan.
That context is just so vital because when you look at how his teams played, you see that logistical military mind at work on the football field. We have to talk about the Neyland defense. The stats from the late 30s look like typos.
They are absolutely baffling. If you want the aha moment for Tennessee football, it says, Neyland treated football like a war of attrition. Yeah. He believed that if the opponent couldn't score, they couldn't possibly win. It's simple but profound. In his career, he won 173 games. 112 of them were shutouts.
Wait, say that again? 112.
112 shutouts.
That is nearly 65% of his wins. It's insane.
But the absolute peak was 1938 and 1939. In that 2-year stretch, the Volunteers recorded 17 consecutive shutouts.
It's 17.
They played 71 consecutive quarters of football without allowing a single point.
71 quarters? That's almost 18 full games.
Correct. The 1939 team is the last team in NCAA history to go an entire regular season, unbeaten, untied, and unscored upon.
Nobody. Not a single point.
Nobody crossed the goal line. Nobody even kicked a field goal. 0.
How? I mean, schematically, what was happening on the field? How do you do that?
It was all about field position. Neyland famously said, press the kicking game, here's where the breaks are made. And he lived by that. For instance, he would often punt on 3rd down.
3rd down, not 4th.
On 3rd down. If he was on his own 40-yard line and it was 3rd and 8, he wouldn't risk an interception or a sack. He wasn't going for it.
So he'd just give the ball up.
He would punt the ball, pin the opponent inside their own 5-yard line, and then just rely on his suffocating defense to force a turnover or a terrible punt from them. He suffocated teams. He realized that college kids make mistakes when they are backed up against their own goal line. He literally weaponized the punt.
It's the ultimate low-risk, high-reward strategy, I guess, but only if you assume your defense is basically perfect.
Which his was.
But there's always a but. The 1939 season, that perfect season, it ended in heartbreak.
It did. They were number one. They were perfect.
Mm.
They went to the Rose Bowl to play USC. And the one downside of Neyland's system was that the offense was often, very conservative.
Right.
They lost their star tailback, a guy named George Cafego, to a knee injury right before the game. Without him, the offense just couldn't move the ball. USC scored twice. Tennessee lost 14 in a row.
So after all that, the streak ends in the biggest game.
It ruined the perfect season, but that defensive record of the regular season, it still stands as a monument in the sport.
He also left us the Game Maxims. We see these recited in hype videos all the time, but let's unpack a couple of them. They aren't just platitudes, they're tactical instructions.
They absolutely are. There are 7 of them. Maxim 1. The team that makes the fewest mistakes will win.
That's pure Neyland. Don't beat yourself.
100%. Maxim 3. If at first the game or the breaks go against you, don't let up. Put on more steam.
Put on more steam. I love that phrasing. It's so industrial, so 1930s.
It is. It's all about grinding the opponent down. And Maxim 4 is key. Protect our kickers, our QB, our lead, and our bowl game. He prioritized the kicking game, the punters, above almost everything else.
So Neyland retires in 1952 due to health issues and eventually passes away in 1962. But before he died, he literally drew the blueprints for the stadium expansions, right?
He did. We have to remember, he was an engineer from MIT. He envisioned the double decking of the stadium, how to build it up. His original plans were used for renovations all the way through 1996.
That's amazing.
So when fans sit in Neyland Stadium today, they are literally sitting inside the physical manifestation of his mind. That's heavy. So Neyland is gone. The program has to evolve. And the 50s and 60s see this transition from that old school military style to, well, the modern era.
It was a bit of a rocky transition at first. Harvey Robinson took over and struggled. But in 1955, they hired Bowden Wyatt, who was a former Neyland player.
Okay, so keeping in the family.
Exactly. And in 1956, they hit a peak that really rivals any in the program's history.
This is the Johnny Majors year.
Johnny Majors, the triple threat tailback. He could run, he could pass, and he could kick. The 1956 team went 10-1. The defining moment of that season was the game against Georgia Tech.
A huge rivalry game.
It was. Tennessee was ranked #2, Tech was #3.
And true to the Neyland roots, I'm guessing it was a defensive slugfest.
It was brutal, just a grind. And the winning play wasn't some flashy touchdown pass, it was a punt.
Of course it was. Tennessee was backed up on their own goal line. Majors took the snap and just boomed a punt, nearly 70 yards, flipping the field entirely. That single field position change led to the only score of the game. Tennessee won 6-0.
But this season also brings us to what I think is the first great grievance of the Tennessee fan base. The Heisman Trophy.
The Heisman theft, if you ask anyone in Knoxville. Johnny Majors finished second in the voting. The winner was Paul Hornung from Notre Dame.
And remind me, what was Notre Dame's record that year?
They were 2-8.
2-8. Are you kidding me? The Heisman winner was on a team that lost 8 games.
It's the only time in history a player from a losing team has won the award. It was largely a popularity contest for the golden boy of Notre Dame.
I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Majors led a team to #2 in the nation and lost the Heisman to a guy on a 2-8 squad. It still stings down there.
I can see why. That's totally indefensible. But, okay, let's move to the 60s. The game is changing. The single-wing offense, that old formation where the ball is snapped directly to the running back, is dying out.
It's a dinosaur.
Right. Tennessee needed to look and feel like a modern football team.
Enter Doug Dickey in 1964. And he's such an important figure, not just for the wins, but for the branding of the program.
Branding? How so?
Before Dickey, Tennessee's identity was just Neyland's team. Dickey gave them the visual identity that they still have today. We call them the 3 T's.
Okay, let's run through the T's. What's the first one?
First, the T formation. He finally scrapped the single wing. You put the quarterback under center. If you wanted to recruit modern players, you had to play modern football.
Makes sense. Second T.
The power T on the helmet. Before 1964, the players just wore numbers on the side of their helmets. Dickey designed that iconic block T logo. It's simple, it's bold, and it's now one of the most recognized logos in all of sports.
And the third T is the one that still gives me chills every time I see it.
Running through the T, the band entrance. Dickey worked with the band director to create this formation where the Pride of the Southland band opens up into a giant T shape on the field.
And the team runs out from under the goalposts right through the middle of it.
It started in 1965. It's just iconic.
He also added the checkerboards in the end zones, right?
Yes. In 1964, he had the end zones painted in that orange and white checkerboard pattern. And I love the origin of this. That wasn't just some random design he came up with.
Where did it come from?
He was inspired by the brickwork on the clock tower of Ayers Hall, which is the most famous academic building on campus. He wanted to tie the football field directly to the university's architecture.
That's a great detail. It really anchors the sport to the school itself. So Dickey modernizes the look, he wins 2 SEC titles, and then he just leaves.
He goes to Florida, his alma mater. It was a total stunner at the time. And that led to the Bill Battle era, which we can probably summarize as good, but not great.
Right.
He was the youngest coach in the country at the time, just 28 years old. He won plenty of games, but he could never beat Auburn, and he couldn't win the SEC. By the mid-'70s, the program felt a little stale again.
And when the program feels stale, you look for a savior. In 1977, the savior came home. Johnny Majors returns, this time as the head coach.
And the timing was just perfect. Majors had just won a national championship with the head coach of Pittsburgh in 1976.
With Tony Dorsett.
He arrives in Knoxville like a conquering hero returning home. But the rebuild was slow. It took a few years to really get the engine firing again.
But when it fired, it really fired. Let's talk about the 1985 team, the Sugar Vols.
This is probably the most beloved team in Tennessee history that didn't actually win a national title. They were such a ragtag group.
How so?
They lost their star QB, Tony Robinson, to a season-ending injury. They had a guy named Doug Dickey's son, step in. No one expected much. But they won the SEC and went to the Sugar Bowl to face the University of Miami.
And we have to set the scene here. This is 1985 Miami. This is the bad boys of college football. Vinny Testaverde, Jimmy Johnson. They were strutting into New Orleans expecting a coronation.
They were heavy, heavy favorites. If Miami won that game, they were the national champs.
But that's not what happened.
No. Tennessee's defense, which was coordinated by a legend named Ken Donahue, played an absolute masterpiece. They confused Testaverde all night long. They blitzed from everywhere. Tennessee just destroyed them 35-7.
Wow.
It was a massive culture clash. The disciplined, old-school SEC team versus the swaggering, flashy Miami team. And Tennessee just broke them.
But the end of the Majors era it's messy. It feels like a palace coup.
It's very Game of Thrones. In 1992, Majors undergoes emergency heart bypass surgery right before the season starts. He can't coach.
So who takes over?
His offensive coordinator, a former Tennessee lineman named Phillip Fulmer, steps in as the interim coach.
And Fulmer doesn't just keep the seat warm for Majors. He wins.
He wins big.
Yeah.
He beats Florida. He beats Georgia. The team looked incredible, re-energized. Majors, probably against doctor's orders, rushes back to the sideline later in the season.
And the team's performance changes.
The momentum just died.
Yeah.
The team loses 3 straight conference games against Arkansas, Alabama, and South Carolina.
And the administration noticed this.
They certainly did. They saw the energy under Fulmer and then the struggles when Majors came back. In a very, very controversial move, they forced Johnny Majors, the favorite son, the hero, out. And they handed the keys to Phillip Fulmer full-time.
I bet that was divisive.
Oh, it divided the fan base for years. But Fulmer quickly healed those wounds with wins and with a certain quarterback.
Peyton Manning.
The
Manning era is so fascinating to me because, again, it starts with an injury.
It's the next man up philosophy in action. It's 1994. The starter is a guy named Jerry Colquitt. He blows out his knee in the season opener against UCLA. The backup is Todd Helton.
Wait, Todd Helton, the baseball player? The future Colorado Rockies legend?
The very same. Before he was an MLB All-Star first baseman, he was a quarterback at Tennessee. But Helton gets hurt too.
You're kidding!
Nope. So they had to turn to the skinny freshman from New Orleans. Peyton Manning comes in, and he never gave the job back.
Manning completely changed the perception of the program. He made them a national media darling.
He was the sheriff. His command of the offense at the line of scrimmage was unlike anything anyone had ever seen in college football. He snapped the long losing streak to Alabama. He won the SEC in 1997.
But just like Johnny Majors before him, he is the victim of a heist.
The 1997 Heisman.
He should have won it.
Peyton Manning comes back for his senior year specifically to win a championship. He dominates. And he loses the Heisman to Charles Woodson of Michigan, who was a great player, but a defensive player. To this day, if you mention the name Charles Woodson in a bar in Knoxville, you might start a fight.
So you have arguably the greatest college quarterback of all time. He plays for 4 years.
Right.
And they don't win the national title. He leaves for the NFL. Expectations for 1998 must have been lower. And then...
the miracle, the 1998 season.
It makes no sense. You lose Peyton Manning and then you go undefeated.
It's the beautiful paradox of football, isn't it?
Yeah.
The 98 team was talented for sure. They had T. Martin at QB, Peerless Price at receiver, and the monster Al Wilson at linebacker. but they just had this team of destiny feel all year.
How so?
They won close games. They beat Syracuse on a last-second field goal. They beat Florida in a brutal overtime game. They survived the Storner fumble against Arkansas.
Remind me of that one.
The Arkansas quarterback, Clint Storner, was just trying to run out the clock to seal the win, and he literally stumbled over his own lineman's foot and just dropped the ball. Tennessee recovered and won.
They played for and made the breaks, as Neyland would say.
Exactly. They ran the table, 13-0. They went on to win the very first BCS National Championship game against Florida State. Phillip Fulmer had finally reached the mountaintop.
But staying on the mountaintop is always harder than getting there. The 2000s saw this slow leak of prestige.
It was a gradual decline. They were still good. They were still producing pros like Jason Witten and Eric Berry.
Yeah.
But they just stopped winning championships. The offense grown stale. By 2008, they went 5-7.
A losing season.
And the administration decided it was time for a change. They fired Phillip Fulmer.
And this is where we need to take a deep breath, because we are now officially entering the wilderness years.
Dark Ages. It was a riot, literally. Students gathered at the athletic center. They burned mattresses in the streets. They surrounded the media van. It was just this visceral sense of betrayal.
So you're scrambling. You have no coach. You need to hire someone immediately. And you hire Derek Dooley.
The son of Georgia legend, Vince Dooley. He had a famous last name and, good hair, but he was completely in over his head. The Dooley era was just defined by bad luck and bad management.
We have to talk about the Music City Bowl.
The 2010 Music City Bowl against North Carolina. This is an all-timer. The game ends. Tennessee celebrates what they think is a win. But wait, the refs review the final play.
What happened?
North Carolina had spiked the ball with 1 second left, but they clearly had too many men on the field. It should be a penalty. Game over.
A penalty, right.
It should have been.
Yeah.
But because of a bizarre rule loophole at the time, there was no 10-second runoff for that penalty. So they penalized UNC 5 yards, but then let them kick the field goal to tie it.
You can't be serious.
They won in double OT. Tennessee lost a game that they had already won.
And then the Kentucky streak ended under him.
That was the final nail in the coffin. Tennessee had beaten Kentucky for 26 straight years. In 2011, they lost 10-7 to a Kentucky team that was so injured they had to use a wide receiver at quarterback. Dooley was fired a year later.
Next up, Butch Jones. Brick by brick.
Butch Jones was a salesman. He was a great recruiter. And at first, it worked. He brought in a lot of talent. He finally ended the long losing streak to Florida in 2016. But he had this incredible knack for saying the absolute wrong thing at the worst possible time.
Champions of life.
The quote that will haunt him forever. In 2016, they had a roster loaded with future NFL talent. Alvin Kamara, Josh Dobbs, Derek Barnett. They were expected to win the SEC East.
And they didn't.
They lost to South Carolina and Vanderbilt to blow it. When he was asked about the disappointment, Jones said, "They've won the biggest championship that's the championship of life."
Oh, no, you cannot say that in the SEC. Fans do not want life lessons. They want trophies.
It turned the entire fan base against him. He was fired in 2017 after overseeing the first 8-loss season in the history of the school.
And this leads us to the wildest Sunday in college football history. We have to talk about Schiano Sunday. We need to walk through this because I still can't believe it actually happened.
It's a case study in the power of social media. November 26, 2017, the athletic director John Currie flies to Columbus, Ohio to hire Greg Schiano, who was the Ohio State defensive coordinator.
A solid resume, on paper at least. Former NFL head coach.
Sure. But news leaks in the afternoon. Dan Wolken at USA Today reports the deal is being finalized, and the Tennessee internet mobilized. It exploded.
Why the intense hostility towards him?
2 reasons, really. 1, he had a pretty mediocre record as a head coach in the NFL with Tampa Bay. But 2, and this is the big one, he had been an assistant at Penn State under Jerry Sandusky. There was testimony and a deposition hearsay, really, that Schiano might have known about the abuse.
And he denied it.
He denied he was never charged. Nothing was ever proven, but the fans weaponized it.
And it wasn't just angry tweets, though.
No, this was organized. People went to the Rock, a giant boulder on campus that students paint, and they painted Schiano cover-up. State politicians started tweeting, demanding the hire be stopped. Protesters gathered outside the stadium.
It was a full-blown, real-time revolt.
By Sunday night, the deal was dead. The university caved to the pressure and backed out. John Currie was fired a few days later. And Phillip Fulmer, the old coach, swept back in as the new athletic director to stabilize the ship.
It's incredible. The fans essentially vetoed a multi-million-dollar coaching contract in real time using social media.
It showed that the passion we talked about earlier is a double-edged sword. It can lift you up or it can burn the administration to the ground.
Fulmer eventually hired Jeremy Pruitt, which also didn't work out.
No. Pruitt was a good defensive mind, but a poor CEO. The program got hit with major NCAA recruiting violations. We're talking about coaches handing out cash to recruits in McDonald's bags. It was a mess. He was fired for cause in early 2021.
So, enter 2021. The program is at absolute rock bottom. You hire Josh Heupel from UCF.
And finally, the sun comes out. Heupel brought his veer-and-shoot offense. It's all about hyperspeed. Spread the field. Score in 90 seconds.
It was the complete antithesis of the old Neyland style, but my God, it worked.
It worked instantly. In 2022, in just his second year, they beat Alabama 52-49 in one of the greatest college football games ever played.
I remember that game, the field goal at the end.
Neyland Stadium shook so hard it registered on seismographs on campus. They tore the goalposts down and threw them in the river. It was a cathartic release. It signaled that the wilderness years were finally over.
Let's pivot to the culture. You just mentioned the goalposts going in the river. That river is unique to Tennessee's game day. Talk to me about the Vol Navy.
This is one of the coolest traditions in all of sports. Neyland Stadium sits right on the banks of the Tennessee River. So back in 1962, a broadcaster named George Mooney was just sick of sitting in game day traffic.
I think we can all relate to that.
So he finds a small runabout boat, pilots it up the river, and just ties it to a tree near the stadium.
He just commuted by boat to avoid the jam.
Exactly. Practicality breeds tradition. Other fans saw him do it and thought, that's genius. Now, on game days, you have the Vol Navy.
What does that look like?
We're talking massive houseboats, yachts, pontoons, all lashed together, sometimes 200 deep, forming a massive floating tailgate party right outside the stadium. They call it sailgating.
I love that. Sailgating. Okay, and we have to talk about the color. Orange. It's not just any orange.
It's not. It's PMS 151.
It is bright. It is aggressive.
Opposing fans call it puke orange or hunting vest orange. But for Tennessee, it's sacred, and the origin is so great. It was chosen way back in 1891 by a student named Charles Moore because of the American daisies that grew on the hill, which is the oldest part of campus.
So this aggressive, violent sport is represented by a daisy.
There's a poetry to it, isn't there? And now you see the dark mode uniforms, the black and orange, and the smoky gray alternates, which honor the granite of the Great Smoky Mountains nearby. They've done a great job modernizing the brand while keeping those daisy roots.
We also need to discuss Smokey the dog.
The bluetick coonhound. This tradition started in 1953. The Pep Club held a contest during a game. They lined up a bunch of different hunting dogs at halftime for the crowd to vote on.
So it was an election.
A live election. The last dog they brought out, Blue Smokey, was introduced. When the crowd cheered, he threw his head back and let out this huge howl. The crowd went bananas. He won the election right there on the spot.
A populist victory for the hound.
We are currently on Smokey Illes. He's handled by the Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity. He leads the team out onto the field. And unlike some live mascots that are, kept in cages, Smokey is very much a beloved pet. He's a good boy.
And finally, the song, Rocky Top.
The earworm to end all earworms.
Now, is it the official fight song?
Technically, no. The official fight song is a tune called Down the Field. But nobody knows the words Down the Field. Everybody knows Rocky Top.
Where did it come from?
It's a bluegrass tune by the Osborne brothers from the 60s. The band just started playing it during games in 1972 as a kind of fun alternative.
And they play it often.
Incessantly. If Tennessee is winning, you might hear it 40 or 50 times in a single game. Opposing coaches have said they hate it more than any other song in sports. Opposing fans have nightmares about it. It's high-pitched, it's fast, and it's pure psychological warfare.
Rocket Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. It is very catchy.
It's the anthem of the whole state now, not just the team.
Before we wrap up, I want to do a quick speed round on some legends we haven't given enough airtime to yet.
Let's do it.
Reggie White.
The Minister of Defense. Maybe the most dominant defensive lineman to ever play the game, college or pro. In 1983, he was just unblockable. He's the standard for defensive play at UT.
Doug Atkins.
Going back to the 50s, a 6'8" giant. He basically revolutionized the defensive end position. He's one of the few players in school history to have his number retired. A true legend.
And Condredge Holloway.
The Artful Dodger. He was the first black quarterback to start in the SEC back in the early 70s. He was an electric scrambler. And you have to imagine the immense pressure and prejudice he faced, and he played with such incredible grace and style. They actually wore beautiful throwback uniforms honoring him just recently.
So looking at all of this, the general, the Heisman snubs, the riots, the river, the resurgence, what is the big takeaway from this deep dive for you?
I think the takeaway is resilience through identity. Tennessee is a program that thrives on its connection to the past. They run through the T like they did in '65. They wear the orange that was picked in 1891. They recite the Maxims from 1930. Even when they were absolutely terrible in the 2010s, 100,000 people still showed up because the identity of Tennessee football remained intact.
It's a community as much as it is a fan base.
Exactly. And now, under Heupel, they seem to have finally found a way to honor that past without being shackled by it. They play modern, exciting football, but the spirit is still very much put on more steam.
So here is the question I'll leave you with. The landscape of college football has changed dramatically. The SEC has expanded. Texas and Oklahoma are in the conference now. There are no more divisions. The path to a championship is harder than it has ever been. Can Tennessee actually get back to the dominance of the Neyland era, or is that standard just impossible to replicate in the modern world?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? You will never see a team go unscored upon again. The game's designed for offense now. But can they be a perennial power? Can they be a top 5 program year in and year out? The resources are there, the fan base is there, and now, finally, the coaching seems to be there. I definitely wouldn't bet against them.
As the general said, play for and make the breaks. Thanks for unpacking this with me.
Always a pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep your powder dry and your orange bright. See you next time on The Deep Dive.